Hello to all lasers out there. Today we start Unit 3. So for Unit 3, you're going to want to make sure that you have your Unit 3 notes with you. They should look like this. All right, so these are the notes that I handed out in class on the first day of the unit. So you're going to want to make sure you've got those with you as we go through the notes. All right, so we are in Unit 3. And by the way, Unit 4 is not a very long unit. So this in some ways will be almost kind of like our last unit. All right, so there's a question that's going to guide everything that we do in this unit. And that question is on the screen. It says, does globalization contribute to sustainable prosperity for all people? That's what we want to find out. That's what we want to decide through the course of this unit. Now, there are two words that stand out in this question. One of them is sustainable, and the other one is prosperity. We're going to talk about those two words right now. So, prosperity. You've got the word prosperity here towards the top of your notes. All right, what does prosperity mean? What does it mean to be prosperous or to have prosperity? Well, here's the definition you can write down. Just the blue words are good. You can write down that having prosperity means to have good fortune or to live a satisfying life. And this can mean different things to different people. There are different people who have different ideas of what it means to have prosperity, right? So I think about two different songs that I grew up listening to. One of them was by a guy called Zac Brown. He's a country music artist, and he wrote a song called Chicken Fried, which is all about his idea of prosperity. His idea of prosperity means that, living a good life means he has a wife that he loves, and he gets to eat some good fried chicken, and he gets to sit on his porch and play his guitar, and life is good. That's prosperity to him. And then I think of another song that I know, which is by a rapper called Drake, and it's called Get Paper. And for him, prosperity is defined as getting as much money as possible and becoming very, very rich, right? So these are two different definitions of prosperity. And so it can be different things for different people, okay? The other word is sustainable. If something is sustainable, what does that mean? Well, it means that if a certain behavior or a way of acting is sustainable, then you can continue to behave in that way, or you can keep acting in that way over a very long period of time, or maybe even forever, without having a big impact on the environment, without destroying the environment. Okay, so think about what it means to be sustainable. There's a difference between driving a car to school and riding the bus, right? Driving a car has more emissions or produces more emissions. So that means it is less sustainable. We can't all be driving to work every day forever, because eventually we will contribute to global warming so badly that we will have a really negative impact on our planet. However, if everybody rides in electric buses, then that's a lot more sustainable, right? We can continue to do that over a longer period of time. So put those words together and we get sustainable prosperity. What does that mean? This means to live a satisfying life, right? To be prosperous, but to do so in a way that can be maintained into the future. To do so in a way that we can keep living that lifestyle well into the future. Okay? So the question here is, as you look at the top of your notes, does globalization contribute to sustainable prosperity for all people, right? Has globalization allowed us to live prosperous lives? And has it contributed to the development of a prosperous life that can be done over a long period of time? Is it sustainable? Okay. Throughout this unit, you will need to know the difference between developing and developed countries. And I realize now I didn't put a spot for this in your notes. Oh no. What was I thinking? Okay, so if you can just find a spot somewhere in your notes, find a little open space, and if you could just write down this definition of developing countries. These are countries that tend to live in poverty. And I don't know how well you can see this on your screen, but these are countries on this map here. They are the countries that have the lightest color. They tend to be developing countries. So you see sub-Saharan Africa, most are developing countries. However, it's a spectrum, right? So they are on a path towards development as they go through blue. And then eventually the purple countries, they are what we call developed countries. Okay, so developing countries, they tend to have a lower standard of living, which means a little bit less wealth. They tend to have more poverty. And usually that's because they have less industrialized economies. They're usually more agricultural. However, developed countries, they tend to have more wealth. They tend to be richer countries. And they tend to have a higher standard of living. And they have more industrialized economies. Okay, so knowing those two things is going to be helpful to you as we go through this unit. Also, another thing to remember is the 3 rounds of globalization, right? First round, second round, third round. We will mainly be talking about the third round of globalization in this unit. And also remember the 3 dimensions of globalization: social globalization, political globalization, and economic globalization. We will be focusing mostly on economic globalization. All right. We will mostly be focusing on economic globalization. And to remind you, that is the process of countries around the world growing more and more connected to each other in business, money, and trade. All right. So it's going to be a good unit. We're going to learn a lot, and it's going to be fun. Stay tuned.